Hey everybody, this is Grace, and this video I want to try to clear up something I had said in the last video I made on this topic about, well, it was more of an intro to what I want to talk about with dissociative identity disorder. It used to be called multiple personality disorder, and not really the disorder, yeah. It's more of just the behaviors. I'm not diagnosing anybody, anything like that. But just some of the things I've seen, I don't know whether they're really connected to them or not, but just some things I've seen. Okay, and to clear it up, I would need to do it, I think, with me on camera. But the problem is, right now I'm having allergy attacks, pollen, flowers are blooming. And on camera, underneath my eyes look really puffy. And although they're not really puffy, my eyes are itchy, and it just shows up that way, and it kind of probably would distract from what I'm trying to point out, and I wouldn't need to use my face. Yeah, it probably would be more of a distraction. So, but it's something that I've seen in the past, and I think maybe it would be better just to call it multiple personas. Some could say persona. In that some people I've seen in my lifetime, they use, with certain people or certain situations or whatever. Now, as a sociologist, my degrees are in both psychology and sociology, but as a sociologist, I would say that we all wear different hats and different masks. It's not just narcissists, as some people think, with different people. Okay, I mean, seriously, Adam, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was like 1989. Adam and I were living in Georgia, in Atlanta area. Kennesaw and Marietta. We lived in both of those. And we were on the street, walking on the street to go to some building or something. And, on the sidewalk, or we were getting out of our car and we're going to the sidewalk, and there was some guy. This was what I think had happened. That was a long time ago. And to give him reason to say this to me. And there was a man walked by, and I think he asked for a dime. I think it was a dime back then for us to use the phone. What do they even call them? I don't even know if they even have them anymore. But yeah, so if that's what happened or that's why he did it, I can't remember, like I said. But he said that, how different would I have responded if it had been my banker walking down the street and needed a dime. This is time before cell phones, or at least before people use cell phones like they do today. And, instead, he would need a dime to use the payphone. How different would it have been if it had been the banker instead of back then they called them bums. Okay, I think now, I don't know what they call them now. Last I heard it was streetwalker, but homeless maybe. And he asked me how different would my response have been. And I said my response wouldn't have been any different. I was really young. And as I thought about it more, I said, yeah, it would be different. So there's a different way we are around other people. Okay, just an example of. And when you really think about it, your personality is the same, but you still have different responses to different people. Okay, in some ways, like, or the way you behave around certain people. Like when you're in a classroom, the way you behave is different than you would if you were out on the field playing, some ball game or whatever. Different ways people respond to their situations. But, okay, now that's pretty much normal, but it depends on the degree to which people do this, of course. Like I said, I'm no expert on this topic at all, no voice of authority, and but about, the ways people, when it comes to psychology, when it comes to, people with multiple personas, okay, I'm going to call it that, not personalities, but personas. Okay, I am seriously pointing this out, that I don't take this as something that you can use and say, oh, these people have this disorder or that. No, it will not be true. I'm not a voice of authority on this at all. It's just something I have seen in my own observations. Okay, let me try to get to this. Now, like you are on these days, with the pandemic and everything. It could be that I'm seeing this more now. Well, what I've seen in the past is when, like, there's a really stressful situation, very stressful situation, like the pandemic now. Say in the past, somebody's parent, one of their parents dying, and they're at the funeral. Different kinds of situations where it's very stressful for that person that has this thing of having different personas that are kind of like histrionic in a way. The behavior is very theatrical, and they are very theatrical. They're very, their behaviors are very histrionic all around. And when they have this really stressful situation, something seems to happen. At least in my experience, and I could be wrong. They might be doing it on purpose, but I'm questioning if they are doing it on purpose, or is it purposefully happening, and they aren't doing it on purpose. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's very difficult to explain, I guess. But like they're switching. They're from one persona to another. But are they doing it, or is it happening because of something with them? See? Okay, maybe I'll try this example. Something I've actually seen is somebody at a parent's funeral, one of their parents' funeral, and instead of acting, what you do when your parent dies, if you had a good parent you felt was your good parent, and suddenly they have a switch in their behavior. One you may have seen before, okay, but like this one switched to hostess at a funeral, okay, instead of showing grief, grieving, crying, whatever you would expect at a funeral. This person is acting like it's a woman, hostess, like a hostess, It was very odd for me to see. Okay, very odd for me to see. And another one would be like these days with pandemic, you see something online, and I personally don't know how Zoom works. I don't know if people can, like an audience can chat like you do on some live streams, like on YouTube or something. I don't know if people can actually type questions to somebody on Zoom. I just don't know that. But I know that from what I know, it's just like a panel. And imagine if you saw somebody, this is what I'm talking about, you might need to actually see me do it, but whenever somebody asks you a question, okay, let's go here. Somebody asks you a question, and you're uncertain of the answer, you will make some kind of facial expression, verbal, nonverbal cues that you are thinking. Okay, you might go, let me think. You might actually say, let me think. You say, sounds familiar, something, and your face will show it. Your actions will show that you're thinking. That's what I've always seen in my life is, if a person's thinking, they let you know. And then when you answer the question, you may say, like say it's a boss or somebody at work, you say, well, they said this and that. I don't exactly agree with it, but, your own persona, your own personality will come out in your answer. Okay? Who you are, how you have been before that question is the same as after that question. You will answer with your own personality. You won't answer, you tell what they said, but you won't cop the persona of that person. But what I have seen is that instead of actually going or doing any nonverbals, verbals, to show that the person is thinking, when they're asked a tough question or somebody makes a statement, that instead it's like online, okay, you're on Zoom, like their video had stopped to buffer, or you are afraid you may have pushed pause and they just stopped because they're not making really any movement. Maybe an eye to one side or their head to the other side. Eventually you see it's not. They're just sitting there. And then when they come back to answer, it's different than their personality before then, and their answer to that question, if it was a stressful question, is totally not the same persona. It's like it's somebody else. And then they'll do that again, that, like you would do when you say, but they just stop. You'll pause. They don't, or make any indication, don't say anything that they're thinking. And then suddenly they switch back to either the person they were before it, or it could be even somebody else. Does this make sense? Like I said, I would think I would need to be on camera for that to make sense. Now, I hope that made sense. Now, what I've seen is when the situation or the question, some who have this kind of overall personality, rather histrionic behaviors, they tend to, I should have mentioned this earlier, I did in that last video, but they tend to steal other people's ideas, like steal people's little bits of the person's persona already. But then when a crisis situation comes about, it seems like they totally switch to that person as if that person, the actual person, not themselves, the actual person could probably handle that situation, that question better. Whew, man, clear as mud, I know. But yeah, you see what I'm saying? If say some voice of authority, say there's a voice of authority on a topic, and that person is asked something about a stressful situation, and they think that voice of authority person they know could better answer it. It's not them. Now see, whenever I've heard about people with multiple personalities, for one, I never really studied that much because I did not believe in it. And that was many years ago when I was taking these classes. I just didn't believe in it. I just didn't believe people actually had multiple personalities within one body. Okay, and that was then, this is now. I still kind of believe in it in a different way. I believe in it the way that I'm saying it, but I could be totally wrong. Okay, but I do feel like it's not that they are taking on different personalities within themselves. The personalities are the people on the outside of them. And I've never heard it that way. Maybe it is that way. But it's like I was saying in that last video, external is somebody else that they have seen handle that kind of situation or handle that kind of subject, or they think would be better able to handle it. And then because they have this habit of copycatting people, stealing people's ideas, and all that when in a crisis situation, it just automatically happens. Yeah, and no matter how much I try to explain this, I don't think I'm explaining it right. No matter how I try to clear it up, I think I make it worse. Okay, so maybe I'll just leave that part right there. But I do want to also talk about this, and which is kind of combined, is that you hear people, I've called them people with a mantra mentality. I have a video I made, I don't know how many months, a year or so ago, I don't know. I was making videos about this, that whatever, this is nothing new to me, nothing, since birth, saying this kind of thing, that whatever they hear other people say, and it could be a bunch of BS, they take it on as that, it's like a, some call it herd mentality, but collective narcissism, that these sheep will listen and follow, and on. So many ways people put this, and it doesn't make it, like if it's right or left or right, whatever. It can be any kind of person for any kind of reason. But what I've noticed in my lifetime is that the people who will repeat what they heard somebody else say in this way, it's because they think that it makes them sound smart. Seriously. It makes, many of them I have seen in my lifetime. I'm not saying all of them. What I'm saying is my lifetime that I've seen, that's what they do. If they think that whatever it is, if they're told to think this about this, they will keep repeating it because it makes them look smart. Seriously. That's what I've seen. And it could be something that is totally illogical. The dots don't connect right, but because they've heard it and they repeat it, and maybe just the people who've not heard it, they seem like they're the voice of authority on something when they're not. It's often kind of conspiracy theory. kind of situation, then they think that they think that it's making them look smart. Okay, let me give an example of that, something that's really been bothering me, and I may have mentioned it. I've seen this online in that group that I've mentioned before. Some of the people I've known since I was very young, some I don't know at all. But they were talking about this, somebody, a guy, apparently wanting to look really smart, said this about, now, and I'm not an expert, a healthcare professional, so I don't know this either, about if you because of this stay-at-home order, this is BS, I can say, but I feel it's BS. But because of the stay-at-home order, that's messing with our immune systems. Yeah, okay, that's what they're saying. Now, I don't even know what you call it, immunologist? No, I don't know. I'm not a healthcare professional or provider, so I don't know, and I'm like 99.99% that person wasn't either. I'm certain the person wasn't either. Nor even any of the people who answered. Some on one side, some on another side of it. That kind of thing. But the thing that was saying was being forced to stay at home is causing that problem. Okay, this is in the United States now. I'm not saying any other country. In the United States. I want people to tell me, where is it that they cannot, they say that because they cannot get outside, they cannot go anywhere, they can't do anything. But where in the United States, please tell me that people cannot go to the grocery store? Seriously, I want to know. Okay, if this is their whole thing, that their immune system's getting messed up because they're stuck inside, you can't raise a window, you can't walk out your door, you can't go to the grocery store. Seriously, I want to know where that is. Because I've never heard of any of that. Never, ever, anytime here. So that's enough said. Their whole premise keeps coming to my mind about being stuck at home. So this is messing with it. It's thrown out the window because literally they could throw it out the window. You see what I know? Here's that nervous laughter thing, but no, not really, because it's so idiotic for anybody to say that. And I have seen heard people, read people repeating this, yet at the same time talking about when they went to the grocery store. How is this making any sense to them? Okay, that they should repeat these things and then talk about going to the grocery store. I really don't know, honestly. Okay, I keep pausing here, but yeah, they just heard that and they're repeating it. It's just a kind of like a mantra mentality kind of thing. They're just repeating it. Okay, repeating what they have been told to say and to make themselves look smart. Some of it is. It's not all. But yeah, so then the other ones, and it spreads like a weed, spreads like weeds. And just trying to add those two together, my brain says, really? Seriously? And that's not the only one. It just keeps going down this line of really, truly not making any sense at all. But, and then in a way that, to me, people who get used to doing that could have this kind of problem too that I'm talking about. Not as, like I said, not as a diagnosis, but as if any time they have a situation where they're pushed with a tough problem, that they should instead of answering as themselves, as who they are, what they do, what they know, what they truly know, what they truly have thought through, what they truly think, they instead answer it as, somebody else's persona, that they think is that persona. Somebody else would answer that question, instead of answering as what they think themselves. You see what I'm just said? That they think, they feel, they believe, they know. They switch to somebody else. Okay, but to see it, now to go back through this, to actually see somebody do that whole pause thing, we all pause every once in a while when we're thinking. But like I'm saying, this one is just an eerie kind of pause. Like for a few seconds, they're not even there. You know, they're not there when they're there. They're not in that brain, okay? And then they switch to this other persona, and then they do that again, a pause, and then switch back or switch to yet a different one. And in a stress, something that's stressful. Yeah. Something that would go against them seeming like they know it all. Now, what I've also seen with this is that they're, like, say it is a person who has one view, maybe say it's to the far right, and then there's stressful questions asked, and they do that pause thing, and then this persona they take on is totally to the far left. And then, like I said, they pause, and they switch again. That's scary, because that does seem like how would their person, their original identity, allow them to switch so far from far right to far left in their opinions? You see what I'm saying? Hopefully so. Yeah. Hopefully so. I hope this all makes some sense. But like I said, I'm not an expert on this at all. Don't take this as something you can use and say, oh, this is what happens, because no. This is just my own personal observations of what I've seen, and I could be wrong about what they're doing or why they're doing it, how they're doing it. Well, not how. I've seen what I've seen. You can't unsee things like that. It is kind of creepy. It's very creepy, really, to see that happening, especially if you're one of the people they take on as a different persona. That they take on everything about you, your ways, I'm Texan, even my accent. Okay, my accent's more than just Texan, but yeah, they take it on, and little things about me, little things I've said, and it took many years to say about me. When at first I wouldn't even talk about my education, and then I've mentioned that I have a genius IQ. I didn't mention that until 3-4 years into making videos, and that I am degreed. I have more than one degree, and somebody takes that and makes it their own. It's creepy. It's very creepy. Okay, and I'm not the only person. That person does it too. But I've seen this. I have seen this online, and it is kind of, I've seen it online, I've seen it in person, and my lifetime. Like I said, my lifetime, I've been around people, too many people who are, not everybody, who have this kind of narcissistic, histrionic blend. I've done so many videos on, but they also have this little sadistic side to them, and combined, I just call it the dramatic dark triad. That's how I see it. I don't see the dark triad as they mention, you've heard people mention. I see it as this dramatic and dark triad kind of thing that I just coined because it's easier for me. That's how I see it. I've seen them. They have the narcissistic, and they have the histrionic behaviors. Narcissistic, like I said, narcissistic and sadistic. They get this cheap thrill out of it, out of what they do to people. So, and then this is just bizarre, to see, in my opinion. But if anybody knows, I actually did look up some information, try to find some scholarly research on it. Of course, I couldn't find it. I'm sure I probably just don't have the right question to ask to see, what are these separate identities, these separate personalities? Where do they originate? Why do they originate this way? I really don't have any, memory of ever hearing that it's somebody external. It's just something internal that they become up. But it wouldn't make sense to me that it would be something internal. Or maybe if it's something the way they were at a certain time in life, it would seem that would be more external. It's, like I just said, somebody they have seen, it could be on TV or whatever, and then they just cop that persona. Yeah, maybe it's just I heard the wrong things or didn't hear enough. So, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. But if you have any comment, leave it below, and I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.